Good morning. Barb here from Above the Fold Digital Marketing, and I have a very special guest with me today. We have a very exciting announcement. So first off, I'd like to welcome Dale Richardson to our 5-minute impromptu going live. How are you this morning, Dale?
I'm good, Barb. Thank you.
Excellent.
Good to be
Where are
here.
where are you joining us from?
Regina.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're in Regina. Oh, I was thinking you were up in
beautiful.
Saskatoon.
No, I'm in Regina, just as you are. So, yeah, hopefully the snow is gone forever.
Exactly. We don't know
Yeah,
about forever, but just for this season, I'll be happy if it's
yeah,
gone.
yeah. Me too.
So, Dale, you started something called the Sask Podcast Network. And that's what we're here to talk about this morning because I'm super excited to have the Secret Life of Entrepreneurs joining the Sask Podcast Network. So, let's start off with what the heck is the network?
Yeah. So, the Saskatchewan Podcast Network it's a central home for people to find Saskatchewan podcasts. If you go to our website, saskpodcastnetwork.com, we have about right around 30 podcast members that they're not necessarily local in content, but they're local people here in Saskatchewan that have started podcasts. And yeah, it's really a central place for podcast listeners here in Saskatchewan, or I guess out of province too, that
Mhm.
want to go and find podcasts, local podcasts.
And podcasting has become so popular. There are millions of podcasts out there. So to know that there's a central place where we can find locally produced content, like that's a really cool idea. How did you find some of the different podcasts in the province that are out there?
Yeah, finding the podcast was, and I've told this story before. Finding the podcast was probably the most amount of work that went into actually launching the network. We were talking before we started. When I first kind of thought of this idea, there wasn't a single place to find Saskatchewan podcasts. So I had to look on, a Google search, obviously, but part of the problem there was that nothing really popped up. There was a Reddit page that I found, and I'm not a Reddit user,
Mhm.
but I found this page, and somebody had listed several Saskatchewan podcasts. So I just
Ah,
basically went through the process of finding those podcasts, either for social media. Some had their own websites, but finding the hosts of those podcasts and contacting them and saying, "Hey, I have this idea for this podcast network. What do you think about it? Would you like to join?"
mhm.
And I think, and this is still true now, 95% of the people that I reached out to initially, they said, yes, of course we want to join. It's a great idea. But yeah,
Awesome.
actually finding the podcasts to join initially was a lot of work.
Was the
So
big part.
yeah,
So do you find that since you kind of launched, now there's some like natural growth where people hear about you and they
yes,
contact you, they bug you through Facebook message, they bug
yeah,
you through email like I did.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
Dale,
yeah,
Dale.
yeah. Lots of interest, and to the point now where we we have too many. No, we don't have too many members, but we're basically we're at the cap that we have in terms of membership.
Mhm.
So we're at about 30, which I think is about as much as I can manage.
Great.
Um, but yeah, we have a lot of people contacting us and saying, "Hey, I'd like to join." And unfortunately, for those who are not able to join the network at this time, just because of the numbers that we have, I say, just with the nature of podcasting, where a lot of people do stop,
Mhm.
their life gets in the way. I say, I'll put you on the wait list, and when somebody drops off the network, there's an opening, and you can join. So yeah, no, but the interest has been quite high, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's excellent. So what kind of topics do you have? Obviously, we have entrepreneurship because that's what we cover, but
Yeah.
what else is in there?
Oh, there's tons. There's a couple of movie podcasts. One's a horror movie podcast. Other is a 90s Disney podcast, which is fantastic. We've got sports. So there's a Rough Riders podcast. There's a Regina Pats podcast. There's a fantasy football podcast. Interviews, my Talking 306, that's an interview podcast that I have. Local business. There's really there's a great one on parenting called Families Matter Most. Jen Dean, she hosts that. There's a residential school survivor podcast
Wow.
called Still Here, Still Healing, and that's hosted by Jade Roberts, and which is absolutely fantastic. So there's a great variety of podcasts, which fits into really the podcasting, uh, you know, uh, industry as a whole. That it's why podcasting is so great. Is your subject matter can be whatever you want.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like self-publishing a book nowadays. You can now self-broadcast as well, whether it's Facebook like we are right now or YouTube. There's so many different ways for businesses to get their messages out there, or for individuals to be able to share, their passion and their expertise and things like that. So it's a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I just wanted to quickly hop online this morning, introduce you to my followers, and share the news with everybody, because I know you've tagged us a few times since our first couple episodes went out. And of course, we have 2 new episodes each month talking to entrepreneurs, primarily in Saskatchewan, but throughout Western Canada now, as the podcast starts to grow a little bit. Something that I absolutely love to do. I always say that it scratches the other side of the brain, because it's not technical and it's not techie, and it's really just a great chance to talk to other business owners and find out, what's working for them and what's not, and how can we all kind of work together, especially in these crazy times that we're in right now.
Yeah. Well, and not to go on too long about it, Barb, but I think one of the reasons why podcasts are so great is, in terms of your podcast in particular, the guests that you are speaking to, many of them, I'm assuming, would not normally get, a traditional media coverage.
Yes.
Like you've had about, 75 or 76 episodes so far. What percentage of those people on a regular basis would have a story in the, Star Phoenix or Leader Post or
Exactly.
go on local news? Probably not that often. So yeah, so your podcast in that regard is fantastic, and it's one of the reasons why, again, why podcasting is so great.
Yes, exactly. One of the things I found not too long ago, and you're right, we shouldn't go on for too long. I was Googling one of my guests. Can't remember why. She's a professional. And so I was Googling her, and her podcast episode actually came up before her business website. And, from my perspective, I was like, yeehaw. But I thought, that's really interesting. Like, that tells me how many people are interested in the content and in visiting the content. And one of the things that I keep track of, and I know you do as well, is how many people are going back and watching an older episode or re-listening or catching it on the radio again. And that number is actually quite high. When people are looking for, content or subject matter, they love to find the podcast. We're now publishing our transcript. So if you want to Google something right within the transcript, it makes it really easy for viewers, listeners, and readers. So try and scratch all sides.
Yeah. No, yeah, we could talk all day about how great podcasting is. It's something I love so much. And, yeah, I'm glad that you're a part of the network now. And yeah. And if I can just plug again, the podcast network, it's,
Please do.
saskpodcastnetwork.com. That's our website. And we're on Facebook and Instagram, of course. And we recently joined Twitter. We're not as active on there. And that's just for personal reasons. I go back and forth on how much I like Twitter, but so yeah, anybody can check us out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dale. Again, we are ecstatic to have an opportunity to be a part of the network and to, listen to some of the other local content that's out there. Because as you say, it's tough to find sometimes. So Thank you to you. And thank you for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Barb. Good
All
to see
right.
you.
Okay. Bye for now. Don't hang up, Dale.